You boy.
Let's rock and roll.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Chad, if you don't mind, please do the roll call.
Mr. Elder.
Here.
Well.
Here.
Mr. Wicker. Here. Mr. Bishop.
Here.
Mr. Mason.
Here.
They're here, Judge.
The first item on the agenda is consider approval of minutes of previous meeting held Thursday, July
Motion.
6, 2017.
Mr. Masterson.
Yes.
Mr. Bishop.
Yes.
Mr. Well.
Yes.
Mr. Wicker.
Yes.
Mr. Elder.
Yes.
Second item on the agenda, as you all can see, we've got some special guests with us here tonight. We've got a baseball team that's done some things that have never been done before. So I'd like to consider approval of proclamation to declare Friday, July 21st as 2017 Marion County High School Knights Baseball Day.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Elder.
Yes.
Mr. Masterson.
Yes.
Mr. Bishop.
Yes.
Mr. Well.
Yes.
Mr. Wicker.
Yes.
Unanimous.
This proclamation reads as such: whereas the Marion County Knights 2016-2017 baseball team head coach Patrick Campbell was named Coach of the Year by the 5th Region Coaches Association, and whereas the Marion County Knights 2016-2017 baseball team senior pitcher Andrew Spalding set a school record for most strikeouts in a season with 142, second in the state, and career 263. And junior pitcher Luke Thomas became first in school history to record 10 wins on the mound, tied for number 4 in the state. And senior Cody Browning and junior Luke Thomas finished the season ranked in the top 25 in defensive fielding percentage. And sophomore Travis Weiser set the school record for the most hits with 48 runs, batted in with 42. 48 and runs batted in with 42. Number 12 in the state in a season. And whereas the Marion County Knights 2016-2017 baseball team earned a team fielding percentage of .950 and team ERA of 1.93. Whereas the Marion County Knights 2016-2017 baseball team went 11-3 in games decided by 2 runs or less. Whereas the Marion County Knights 2016-2017 baseball team earned the first 20th District Tournament Championship since 1988. And whereas the Marion County Knights 2016-2017 baseball team earned the first 5th Region Tournament Championship in school history. And whereas the Marion County Knights 2016-2017 baseball team earned an overall record of 28-7, most wins in school history and most wins in the 5th Region this season. And whereas the Marion County Knights 2016-17 baseball team advanced to the semifinals of the Whitaker Bank KHSAA State Championship by defeating Hazard 7-4 in an extra inning and Knox Central 8-7 before falling to Simon Kitten 5-2. Whereas the Marion County Knights 2016-2017 baseball team have made our community and county proud, both on and off the field. Now, therefore, we proclaim July 21st Marion County Knights Baseball Day. And I do have some certificates for every player, if you all want to come up and get them, or how you want to do this. We're doing this in alphabetical order, the way it looks. You got Luke McCarty here.
Landon's here.
You want to go on?
Landon.
Congratulations, Lane.
Thank you, Zach.
Good job. Congratulations.
Luke.
Congratulations.
Riley.
Congratulations.
Cody.
Congratulations.
Aaron.
Congratulations, Aaron.
Nick.
Congratulations. You want names, or is he getting out just
And we also got Dawson McCarty, Cody Case, Andrew Spalding, Nicholas O'Daniel, Chase Miles, Devin Murphy, Davis Rafferty, Luke Thomas, Luke Abel, Jerry Tucker, Tyler Abel, Brandon Lee, Matthew Paul, Dalton Salee, Cameron Nally, Travis Weiser, Kelly Mattingly, Grant Brown, Lasashi Gotu, Alex Tungett, Noah Abel, Luke Buckman, Caden Spalding, and Michael Madden.
Congratulations.
We also have assistant coaches, I guess, Mark Brock, Jason Buckman, Cody Tungey, and also like to begin with George Bragg's also. Let me see what we have left over here.
You guys made us proud. As a member of the 1982 Marion County Night baseball team, and yes, they had a high school in '82. Okay.
We got those stats.
71.
You know, let's don't talk about the stats right now, Coach. All right, but but I ran water as quick as I could.
Stop.
Shortstop, second base. That's exactly right.
Shortstop.
Well, I was short there too. I was shorter stop.
Hope we can do this again next year.
Yes, sir. I look forward to it.
Thank
Thanks,
y'all.
guys.
Thank you all.
Thank y'all.
Y'all have a good evening. Get them next year. That was a fun run. I tell you what, that was awesome.
We also have some other guests with us tonight. I'm going to go ahead and move Jimmy Mudd up to the next item on the agenda, if that's okay with everybody. He's here to discuss some water rate issues. Jimmy?
I guess there's some core here, y'all have seen in the paper about the proposed rates for Marion Water Company, which we purchased probably 99.97 for our water from. Myself and the board of commissioners were, somewhat concerned about the percentage of this rate increase. We've had rate increases in the past, but I think this is probably one of the largest. If you combine that, which when it's incorporated into our existing rates, we figure it to be about 23%. And if you look back, they had also increased their rate back in 2013 at 11.41%. We, as the Marion County Water District, had a small increase of 3% last year in 2016, which makes a total on the last 4 years of 37.41%, which is quite a big increase over 4 years, is what we're kind of looking at as a district. The new rate for Lebanon will generate for them $498,952 a year, close to $500,000 just from Marion County Water District stuff. And let me say that none of that money goes into Marion County Water District's revenue. That is solely a pass-through that goes to Lebanon based on this new rate.
That's in addition to what there's already, that's just a rate increase.
That's just a rate increase, that's a pass-through. So when we pass that through to our customers, that's the money based on the last 12 months of usage. That's the money that will be generated back to Lebanon.
I haven't read the paper yet. Is that proposed increase or is that,
That's the proposed increase that I was given before the council meeting, after this last money before last.
So has that been approved yet? Has the council approved it?
Reading, is that correct?
Correct, it has been read at the first reading, it'll be read the second time at the next council meeting.
that's a pretty hefty increase.
So I want the court and the people understand that Marion County Water District does not get any revenue off of this. It's solely pass.
Is there a reason for that much of a hike?
It really relates to two different things. First is the pipeline to Campbellsville. We have a minimum purchase contract with those guys of 300,000 gallons a day. Through our budget for this year and through the rate increase, we have planned on purchasing 400,000 gallons. That's just above the minimum from Campbellsville a day. And so we have to add about $400,000 to our existing budget. That source of water provides us three sources of water in Marion County. We have the Rolling Fork River, Bacon Branch Lake, and now, starting in about September, the Campbellsville line will be in service, and so that will give us three sources of water. Back many years ago, Bacon Branch Lake got very low, and there was discussions of additional industry coming to town. And so this third source will ensure that we have plenty of water and won't have water shortages.
You do realize that if you're a large consumer of water, that's a huge increase.
We do.
Dairy or, It's large.
Well, dairy
You gotta-
industry, yeah.
You've
Anyway.
got to purchase 300,000 a day right now is what you've agreed to.
Well, that's the minimum that we can purchase through this construction contract. So as a part of Hamelsville building the project, they built to the county line and we built from the county line into Lebanon. To recoup that money, the minimum that we can purchase from them every day is 300,000 gallons.
What's your consumption every day right now?
Currently, we produce about 2.5 million gallons.
So a little over 10%.
And
So-
what's it, the
Total
difference
cost of this
between
project.
what you purchase and what it costs you all to treat the water? What's the difference in that?
We'll see, through Campbellsville, it's a tiered rate structure. So if we buy 300,000, it is about, I think it's like $3.95 per 1,000 gallons. And then if we buy 1 million gallons, it's $2 and some change. So the more you buy, the cheaper it is, the way it's set up in Campbellsville. So buying a smaller amount, it's cheaper for us to actually produce the water.
So let me ask you a
On
question,
the
Derek.
larger amounts, it would be cheaper to buy. I guess.
Correct, there's a lot of fixed costs at the plant, so unless you have additional usage, it's not cost effective to go and buy the 1 million gallons, because we all have all the fixed costs at the plant.
So, obviously, on that line, I'm sure that water has to run through it, correct? I mean, you just can't keep water stagnant in that line. It has to be flushed or it has to be ran through that line, correct?
Correct, there's just under 200,000 gallons that it takes to fill that pipe from Campbellsville to Lebanon. So buying more than 300,000 gallons a day also ensures that we keep that pipe fresh. Because if you turn it off for a period of time, that water quality would go stagnant and you'd have water quality issues out in the system.
Well, I was just wondering, what would be the minimum amount of water that you could actually flush through or purchase through the system on a daily basis or monthly basis that would keep the water from being stagnant, to keep a small flow?
Well, through the purchase contract, we have to purchase 300.
Well, I know you have to. I'm just saying, is it 150,000? Is it 100,000?
A lot of that depends on how far the water goes. So
Yeah, I understand.
Once the water gets from their system into our system, it has all the arteries that takes it out to all parts of the city and county. And so it really just depends on where that water goes and what the demand is at that particular time.
Now, one question I do have, and I totally understand Mr. Mudd and the County Water Board's concern, because obviously 45 or over $500,000 a year, that's quite a bit of money. I mean, that's a large number. And I don't know about you, I've received calls from people out in the county and so forth, and we represent everyone in the county, Lebanon, all of Marion County. But one of my questions is for example, I would like to see, I'm not sure exactly how it is now, and I know that the city and the county have an agreement on a purchase agreement as far as the water goes. And I know that was set several years ago. As a matter of fact, I think my father-in-law, Dr. Joe Green, God rest his soul, was on the board at that time, or might have been the president at that time. But anyway, I guess my question is that just like with Campbellsville, you have a tiered schedule, okay? In other words, if you buy this much, it's this much. If you buy more, it's a reduced rate. I know you guys have looked at that, but if you could, I think it would do a lot of things. Number one, I think it would be beneficial, obviously, for the county water district, but I think, and the citizens, but I think it would also be beneficial for moving forward as working together and so forth. If you could possibly revisit that and see if there are some things you could do to make it a little more palatable or, a little better in regards to the sense of the county side of things. And I understand growth and development, but at the same time, we got to work together. So if you could look at that, and if we could work with the county a little more, I think that would be good. The other thing is, Judge and I were talking about this. I know that when you guys have to raise your rates, just like us, if we have to increase taxes on something or on a service or whatever, I mean, obviously, we hate to do that. Nobody likes a tax increase. Nobody runs and says, thank you very much, okay? Yet I haven't seen it. But I guess as we move forward, I think it would be nice that when you guys are considering a rate increase, because obviously it affects our county water board, our county district, our county citizens dramatically, because we depend on you as our resource, to possibly involve us not us, but the county water board, in a little quicker sense of the word. So in other words, if you see an increase coming maybe a year down the road, or, because I know you do projections, and obviously you have budget and cost projections and so forth, to maybe involve them from a standpoint of the process, so they can better gear themselves for that, and the board can be better informed and better structured for that. Because I can understand it, if I was sitting on the board, it'd be a little bit of a shock, to be honest with you. But if you could, the key things I'd like to leave here with is that if the board could revisit the current rate structure and see if you can do something a little more palatable to the county water board, which would be beneficial, obviously, to the county water board, obviously to the county citizens, but also to the industry, exactly, industry, farming, all of us, but also to the working portion of the county working with the city. And then the second thing, so that's the rate, okay? And then the second thing is that in the future, as changes appear, or you guys are talking about tax increase or rate increase, I should say, that you give a little more heads-up warning to the county water board so that they, or work with them and give them a little better knowledge so we can kind of work it through. And we appreciate that, if you could.
Well, and 6 months ago, I've been at the water company now about a year, and around the first of the year, we had entertained the discussion of having a look at our rates, and so we worked with Kentucky Engineering Group, and I told Jimmy at the time that we were looking into that, but it wasn't until recently that we got that information back. So we made a small mention of it a few months ago, but at the end of the day, at that point in time, we really didn't know the impacts until we evaluated the Campbellsville water situation that we were going to choose, how many gallons we were going to buy a day, and how that would factor into any kind of rate increase. The Campbellsville portion is a part of the rate increase, but the other part is as costs of operation continue to go up, we're not able to fund depreciation at the level that we had in the past. And at the end of the day, we put about $600,000 in our depreciation account, and we have a capital improvement plan that's about $500,000 a year. And so we have pipes out on Main Street, for instance, that were put in the 1880s. They're 130 years old. So they're way past their useful life, and so there are a lot of challenges out there as far as water quality. The district, the water company, we're all dealing with increasing regulation, and increasing regulation is putting a lot more strain on all of us. And so it's becoming more important to replace that old infrastructure, get that biofilm out of the line so that we can continue to meet current regulations.
And I understand that. I just think it was two simple things that we're looking at, and I think would be better in the future. Because again, you got to remember, obviously, when you guys, no different than us, when we vote to increase a service or a tax on a service or whatever we provide to the citizens, we try to get it out there, and we try to make sure all parties are informed as much as possible. And that's all I'm asking, just, a little time, working a little bit better together. And again, if you could look at possibly something like Campbellsville's doing with you guys on a tiered rate system, that might help, not just the county water board, but, our county residents, our farmers, our industries, help everyone.
It's my understanding, I have to go back and look, but it's my understanding that we were on a tiered rate structure prior to Bacon Branch being built. And I don't know if you guys, maybe were on a tiered rate structure at one point in time or not.
We were, but what we got into was that, we did not buy it from letting it that way. So it really didn't make any sense for us to sell it that way. It was for that reason, and another reason when we go to get credits for whatever the reason may be, or the meter bond or whatever, it was a whole lot easier to calculate than it was to tiered rate. So, we didn't buy it that way, so I didn't say you used to sell it that way. Then when we had a rate restructure, we just started it instead.
And more and more utilities, kind of the current trend is going back to a flatter rate structure. These tiered structures were very popular at one time, but more and more utilities are coming the direction that we're already in. And I know this is not a large discount, but we do give the county water the city rate and not the county rate.
I know, so if you could look at that, if your board would be kind enough to look at that, that would be really nice.
Let me ask you, Jimmy, what was that total increase over the last 4 years?
Total increase?
Yeah.
37.4.
37%. I've got one question for you, and this is not good, but I've got to ask it. As a water, I buy water, myself and at the dairy. Do you buy insurance? If they called you tomorrow and said your insurance go up 37%, would you think that's kind of high?
I would get that, but just on the flip side, put it back to a cell phone or cable TV or.
We're talking about necessity now, not a luxury, okay? There's a difference in the two.
Well, if you guys could, that's all we ask. And I think the city council's already approved the first reading, correct? So obviously, it sounds like, unfortunately, they have their mind made up. But I think the only thing we're asking here is that we're all here together. We're all in the same county. We all work together. And obviously, the county water district is your largest customer. And I know in most businesses, and I'll admit in my business, do my very large customers get some special treatment? Absolutely, because they're consistent users, they're consistent financiers of my operation. So therefore, I'm going to do a little bit more for them than I might for others because they are a large part of my operation. So just moving forward from a relationship standpoint and as well as just kind of working toward the future together, if you could look at those two things, we'd greatly appreciate it. And if the board, John, Dick, if you guys would address that at the board, that'd be great. Thanks, Darren.
Thank you, Mayor.
Jimmy, you got anything else?
Couple of questions. Mayor, I'm sure you know this with your research of the rate analysis. Back in 2013, the rate was, of course, it calculated down to our rate schedule 11.41%. Was any of that Campbellsville project, was it calculated in part of that rate increase?
Back in 2013?
Yes.
Not anything.
Y'all didn't check on that, or that was a part of your, doing a rate analysis to show that?
I have to go back to verify Jimmy, but I don't think it was.
Well, I was understanding it was, there was some part of that that was incorporated into that increase. And another question, what part we buy, which your state law goes practically half of what you produce every day, what kind of revenue does the part that you sell to your customers, what amount of dollars of extra revenue does it create? Do you have a number on that?
I don't have the spreadsheet with me, I'd have to look that up.
Would it be an equal amount or a lesser amount? Probably a lesser amount, what would be all?
Let me understand your question. Are you talking about just the city customer?
That's right, yes.
Okay, so the rate is the same for the water district and the city customers, so it would generate the same revenue on water sales. So if the city customers consume the same amount as the water district, it would generate the same revenue.
So you would be looking at $1 million total? What we're saying here?
$1 million. So what you're saying, Jimmy, is that if they're creating $500,000 off the county water board, and if the city residents, such as myself, or the city businesses, residents, so forth, or the same, then that would be $500,000 additional revenue. So you're saying, is it $1 million in additional revenue a year? So what's your projection on that total revenue?
Yeah, I know what you're asking. So yes, the answer is yes, but after a full year of the rate increase in effect, the sum would be nearly.
So it's going to take $1 million a year in extra revenue?
Well, again, going back to the Campbellsville, purchasing water from Campbellsville, there's over $500,000 that we're gonna plan to spend there. We're buying that just above the minimum amount of water. So that $500,000 is right there. That is that increase that's already, commitment has been made. And so come September, we're gonna be buying some water from Campbellsville.
I'm just curious, I understand that now. You said that earlier, thank you. Who negotiated that contract with Campbellsville in behalf of did the water board negotiate that, or who negotiated that?
Water board.
Okay. Is there a certain time limit, or is that a 99-year contract, or is that?
I believe it's a 20-year contract because it falls in terms with the loan.
Gotcha.
The loan that Campbellsville has, the loan that Lebanon has, is a 20-year loan through KIA.
Gotcha,
And so it covers the length of loan.
gotcha.
Do you know?
I'm sorry.
How much is that loan, do you know?
That loan is it's just under $3 million.
3 million? 20 years,
Yes, sir.
$498,000 a year ought to pay it off.
Yeah, it's low interest too, I think.
1%,
4%?
1%.
1%? I'd like to get some of that.
All right,
Yes.
Anybody
thank you, sir.
else have anything?
Richard? Dick?
Just a few things here, I was gonna finish up, a lot of it's probably been answered. Like I say, the current rate the district pays per thousand, we're at 1,000, we're in gallons, they're in cubic feet. We're paying $5.65, it's going to $6.95 per thousand, that's what the customer will be billed. I have a copy of a breakdown of some general usages through the water district, different customers. And I just made my 15 copies, you know, get some more. Just gives you a general idea of what it's gonna cost the customer if they're in a certain, usage bracket. It's not every bracket, but it kind of breaks it down to the lowest to the highest. Lowest meaning about 500 gallon usage up to the millions with ball, like
Sir.
the largest producer, which will be Maker's Mark. And it gives you an annual, cost of what that's gonna be. That's kind of based on what I'm trying to do.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else have one?
Give those.
And in closing, you know, myself and the board of commissioners, we would like Lebanon Water Board and the mayor and the city council to maybe consider a possible lower rate, or maybe even, implementing this rate increase that has to be put into effect maybe, or implementing out over 3 years, maybe 3 to 4 years, instead of putting it off.
Well, that's a good question. I meant to ask that. I'm glad you brought that up, Jimmy. I was wondering, Darren, and the board, John and Dick, that was another question I wondered if that, on this rate increase, especially in regards to the county water board, since they are by far the largest single user, if that tax increase, the tax increase you guys are imposing, if it could be, as opposed to an immediate, if it could be over, say, a 2-3 year period, or just look at some possible opportunities that would work within your budget, work within your budgets and your plans. Because I agree with Jimmy. I mean, if there's some way to work that out, I think that would be very, very palatable. So, so for example, like when I look at Maker's Mark here, like you said, that's an annual increase of $96,720 a year.
That's gonna go up because their usage, as we all know, is projected. We've had meetings before of the amount of water they're gonna use, and I didn't put the prison in there because the history is just too old on them where they closed. I could use their old standards, but those in the mother house is probably around 500,000. There's about 500,000 gallons a month, so for Makers and Lloyd mother house at this point are our largest customers.
Gotcha. Well, if you guys could go back and look at those, I mean, possible options, that would be great.
We can do that. We've already run some of those numbers, John. At the end of the day, if we were to take the rate increase that's been read one time and cut it in half and divide it over a couple of years, we would fall about $300,000 short in our budget. And so what that means is depreciation would not be funded, it would be funded less than 50%. And, it's looking at it 2 ways. You do that very long, you're going to decapitalize your organization. And second of all, we're not going to have the money to do needed improvements to our system. And so that means that as we move forward, that as things fail, as items have to be replaced, and again, some items are over 100 years old as far as pipes in the ground, we're going to have to borrow that money to make any kind of improvements. And we can't continue to borrow money. I mean, you do that over time, and
Catches
we'll
up.
be in a bind as far as the community goes.
Yeah. Well, and I hate to say this, but gosh, I understand exactly what you're saying, and it makes total practical business sense, okay? But then, I hate to say this, but it just makes you wonder what has happened over the last 10, 15 years. Why did it all of a sudden get to this point? You see what I'm saying? Because managed business and managed companies, no different than this court, we're responsible, you guys are responsible. It's our responsibility, our fiduciary responsibility to as citizens to manage that so that we don't all of a sudden just up and bang. If the systems blew up downtown, I could understand. But you see what I'm saying? It makes you wonder, how did it get here so quick?
A couple of different things. Again, you have aging infrastructure on one hand, you have a redundant water system on the other. It's that you brought up insurance a minute ago. It's like an insurance plan. We have a third water source now, and there's a cost to that, and so it's two larger items hitting around, I'll say, the same time. The need for improving old infrastructure and having another water source.
Yeah, and from a long-term standpoint, it's a good thing we have the pipeline from Campbellsville, there's no doubt. I mean, as water source is critical to all of us, obviously, for life and for operation, but if you can just address those couple of issues, and as Mr. Mudd stated there in regards to possibly looking at some rate structures or something a little more palatable, it benefits all of us, and especially where we're sitting, because obviously that affects the people we represent, so.
I've got one more little thing. Listen, nobody on this court is anti-progress. We're all for progress. My take is, everybody was drinking water yesterday, wasn't they? Everybody was taking a bath, so now we got more water. We got to pay for the water, right? Everybody understands that. But speaking of Sally Mae out in Holy Cross, and there's no Sally Mae out there, it's just a fictitious name. When you sit here and you say that, the pipes in the ground in Lebanon are 100 and some years old, the county water pipes aren't 100 and some years old, okay? So she's wondering why she's paying 37% more so you can fix the pipes in the city of Lebanon. I mean, I say that, and I understand more probably than she does. But she don't understand. And I can understand why she don't understand. So, because like I said, she was drinking water yesterday, and she's going to turn on next month, it's going to cost her 37% more money, or whatever the number is, 22, whatever. So, it's just a big increase, okay? Now I'm through. Thank you, sir. Not trying to be hard on you, just trying to understand.
I understand. We know it's a big increase, but at the end of the day, we just know that if we sit back and do nothing, let the system get older and absorb the cost, we're going to be in a big pickle a few years to come. And so we're just trying to find a way to head that off and stay a resilient community.
Well, and all we're saying is that obviously your decision, since we are reliant upon the water source from the city, your decisions and the board's decisions directly affect obviously the county water board, obviously directly affect the judge and the court, and obviously directly affect our citizens, not only in Lebanon, but also in the county. So as we move forward, it would, I didn't know anything about this till I read it in the paper. That's the first time I'd heard of it. So I guess my point is as we move forward, let's try to have a better open means of communications working together. And again, critical point, if working with the water board, if we can look at some opportunity there to help alleviate some of their concerns, which obviously directly relates to the citizens of the county. So,
Jim, anybody?
Thank you.
Our water rate, how's it compare with surrounding counties? I'm just curious.
We're still below, we're still pretty good shape as far as that goes.
Well, see, I've always said just because they pay $2 for an apple in Taylor County doesn't mean I have to pay $2 for an apple in Lebanon.
No, I'm hoping it's less. I'm grasping at straws.
I got one more question that I should have.
You promise? I'll mess with Jimmy.
Well, I guess my question is, the Campbellsville line keeps coming to the top as far as why this rate increase I know Marion Water has done projects, a lot of projects in the past, started back in 1968. And each project, before they done that, they was going to borrow the money to do it, like Lebanon does.
to say, that's a legitimate question. I mean, that's a totally legitimate question because.
And I know it's all in a time frame, but, you know, you would think that if we were gonna spend $3 million, that the light bulb all go off somewhere, there's no doubt. Do we have the money to do that in-house, or are we gonna have to borrow that money, which we are? So we have to have a rate increase to pay this $3 million back, instead of 2 years later, or a year later, whatever the case may be. Am I looking at that wrong?
I think, I mean, that's legitimate. What was, when did you guys, I mean, did you consider that obviously going into the project? Or were you weren't here, were you, so?
I was not here when all those discussions were had.
Yeah,
That's why I'm asking back to, was this figured in that 11.41% rate increase back in 2013? Was this?
that's a good question.
Campbellsville line figured into that rate increase? Not solely for that, but was it part of that?
I don't believe it was, but I will double check.
Yeah, and that's an excellent question, because you're right. And that's how business should operate. And again, that gets back to my point about as you move forward, that why is this all of a sudden hit us today as opposed to, you know, and I'm not, Darren, I appreciate everything you're doing, but my point is that it's just like this court. It's our responsibility to take care of today. We're responsible for yesterday, but to take care of today and to project for the future, okay?
And the only response I would have to that is, you know, this project in 2013, when that rate increase was finalized, I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and look at the history and evaluate if the discussions were going on at that point in time, but even if the discussions were going on when that rate increase occurred, I wouldn't believe that any hard numbers would have been available at that point in time. I think it was just discussions. But again, I would have to double check to verify and make sure that's an accurate statement.
That would be interesting. I mean, if you don't mind, that would be great information. But I'm like Mr. Mudd, I think that would be good information to have. So appreciate it. Just, hey, show us a little love. That's all we want, is a little love. Thank you, guys.
Anybody else? Jimmy, you got anything else?
Thank you, Jim.
Oh, you got anything to say?
Earl, Mr. Sandusky, would you like to address the court? Okay.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Jimmy?
Thank you, Jim.
Earl?
Mr. Sandusky.